Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to 61 Warden, the Cleric's Raid Healing Soul. Warden is a really strong burst AoE healer that is most of the time overlooked in Nightmare Tide because of how strong Liberator, Chloromancer, and the Phystact Rogue Hybrid are currently. That being said though, Warden is still a contender and can be used on a lot of instances in Nightmare Tide with great results. In this guide I'll be showing you where to put your points, which masteries to select, as well as how to play Warden, so let's go ahead and get started. Looking at the soul tree breakdown, you see we do the full 61 points in Warden. There are quite a few hybrids that involve going a few points less in Warden. However, for the sake of this video, we will be doing the full 61 points in Warden. For the secondary soul, we go 10 in Sentinel. That gives us 5 in Watchful Gaze for a 10% spell power increase. We go 3 in Expeditious for the 6% healing and absorb increase to instant spells, and also 2 in Benediction for a flat 2% healing and absorb increase. As a bonus for going 10 in Sentinel, you also pick up Healing Breath, which is a nice little spot heal, and also Banish, which is a nice additive to your DPS rotation. For the third soul, we go 5 in Oracle for a Confidant, which increases your spell power by 10%. With Confidant and Watchful Gaze, you get a full 20% spell power increase, which is pretty huge for make sure you're maximizing your tooltip values on your abilities. So moving over to the masteries, level 61, we take Avenging Shield, gives you a nice 3% max health shield every 6 seconds. Level 62, we take Divine Inspiration, gives you a flat 5% healing increase. Level 63, we take Faith's Freedom, gives you 100% combat res. Level 64, we take Faith's Reward. This allows your instant and channel damaging and healing abilities to apply Faith's Reward to you, which reduces the cast time of non-instant abilities by 0.5 seconds per stack. It does consume them when you use them though, so this is really awesome to use with your Healing Cataract. Level 65, we take Divine Favor. That is specifically because you can apply this on people in your raid, and whenever you cast Geyser, it will proc the healing from this mastery. So that's it for the souls and masteries, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the macros. So looking at the macros, starting at the top here, we have a spam macro with shift modifiers in it. So this is on my 1 key. So if I hit my 1 key, it'll first cast Orbs of the Tide, which is this ability here. We'll talk about it more later. And then it'll also cast the Geyser after that, which is your spam ability. Now if I hold shift and hit my 1 key, it'll cast Call of the Depths, which will then gray out because of how Call of the Depths works. And then I'll hit shift and hit 1 again, and it'll cast Dehydrate. Now Call of the Depths, usually you wouldn't be able to do this with damage over time abilities because they don't have cooldowns. However, Call of the Depths is one of those unique skills that you can do it with. Moving on down, we have the Healing Cataract macro. This will cast Healing Cataract unless you hold shift, which is your 2 key. So if you hit 2, it'll cast Healing Cataract. If you hold shift and hit 2, it'll cast your target. It'll target yourself, cast Tidal Surge, and then also you'll cast Downpour, which is a nice little 6-second channel that's really pretty powerful if you use it in conjunction with Tidal Surge. Moving on down, we have the Burst macro here, which has Pool of Restoration, which is a strong healing cooldown, and then also Healing Effusion, which is a strong healing spammer, but it does cost a lot of mana. Moving on down to the tank here, we have the Orbs of the Stream. This is another one of the Orbs abilities that we'll explain later, but basically it'll apply Orbs to your target that whenever they're hit, it will proc healing from them. Moving on down, we got the Single Target Healing macro. It's going to hit your Healing Breath instant ability, followed by your Overflowing Renewal spam. If you're moving, it will cast Healing Spray, which is your healing over time ability. Moving to the top, we have the standard battle res. Next up is your Single Target Healing over time ability, which is your Healing Spray, which is a nice little 32k health over 20 seconds there. Moving on down, we have the Single Target Cleanse macro. This is pretty standard for any healing build in Rift. You'll want to have a macro like this so that somebody in your raid has something that needs to be cleansed. If you just pop this once, it'll automatically find them for you. Moving on down, we have the Cascade. This is your mana macro. This will give you 15% of your mana back over 3 seconds every minute. Moving on down, we have the Dot macro, which is going to be banished from your Sentinel tree, and then also Oversaturation, which is from your Warden. Using this, if you hit Z, it'll cast Banish. If you hold Shift and hit Z, it will cast Oversaturation. Moving up to the top, we have the 3 major cooldowns that we use in Warden. That is Monsoon, which of course has Tidal Surge. This applies all of your healing over time abilities. Once you cast this, you can hit Shift and then hit this ability again, which is on your E key, and it will cast Ripple, which will spread those healing over time abilities to 5 other people for a total of 15. So moving on down, we have the Wave of Renewal macro here, which just applies Tidal Surge to it. And then of course we have Pool of Restoration, which again is a really powerful healing cooldown there that also will apply Tidal Surge. And of course we have the K-Alert macro. So that's it for the macros, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the action bar and the buffs. So starting at the top here, you see you have Bosun's Blessing and Shared Access. These are the 2 main buffs that you have. Bosun's Blessing will of course be cast on you. Shared Access will typically be cast on you as well. However, sometimes I like to toss it up on the Purifier since he a lot of times will shield himself constantly and take the least amount of damage of the raid. But it's totally up to you. You can kind of assess that when you get into the situation. We have the standard 85 endurance buff here with Heroic Resolve. We have Divine Providence here. What you'll do with this, if you're not familiar, is you'll cast it on yourself, and then it'll change the icon to Divine Favor. You'll then apply Divine Favor to 3 people in your raid, and every time you cast a single target heal or Geyser, it will proc it and heal them for a lot of healing. Of course, we have the K-Alert macro here. Moving on down to the second bar, on our Z key, we have the Damage Over Time ability macro. On the Q key, we have Wave of Renewal, which is a very powerful ring that will contract out, dealing 31,000 health, and then contract back, dealing the same. If you use Tidal Surge on this, it nearly does double that value, so it's almost a full heal for your raid twice, using it this way. Moving over to the right, we have Monsoon. This is going to apply Healing Flood, Healing Spray, and 4 stacks of Soothing Stream to 10 party or raid members. That's pretty large there. You can see that your Healing Spray does 32k health over 20 seconds. Your Soothing Stream with 4 stacks will do about 40k health there, and then your Healing Flood will deal 9,000 over 20 seconds. So it's quite a bit of passive healing there. So moving over to the right, we have the Pool of Restoration. This is very strong healing. This will typically top people. This can sometimes top people off even when you don't have it with Tidal Surge. So with Tidal Surge, it usually will top everyone up. So really awesome to use after very spiky, unpredictable damage. Moving over to the right, we have Tidal Surge here. This is going to be the bread and butter of this build, really. I mean, it says it's a 45-second cooldown, but when you use a damaging ability, its cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. So if you're doing nothing but damaging abilities, thrown it with a couple of healing things thrown in there with Tidal Surge from now and then, it'll be about a 15-second cooldown to 20-second cooldown versus the 45. Moving over to the right, we have the Mana Potions. With any Cleric build, typically Mana Potions are very important, so make sure you have some. Moving over to the right one more, we got Cascade. This is the 15% mana. It gives you 15% of your mana back over 3 seconds. Moving over to the right, we have Open Water. This is a 5% mana each second channel. You may have to end up using this in your rotation. It depends on how good you are at managing your mana. Over to the right, we have a series of 8 abilities here that I typically don't use. They're just here. These are going to be your damage over time abilities that are in your macros. So they're just here specifically so I can show you them in this video. We have Banish and Oversaturation here that are in this macro here. Moving on down, we have the Orbs of the Tide. This is going to be your raid healing orbs. It casts at yourself whenever it's up, and then anytime you're hit, it will heal your party or raid or 10 party or members for 4,000 health each and remove 1 orb. So pretty nice passive healing. I already showed you Soothing Stream. We don't typically use this in a raid environment, but you can use this if you want to try and heal expert dungeons or something with this. Crushing Waves is a 10. It is a 10-person knockback, and then of course Glassy Reflection is a 30-second cooldown. Reflect, which lasts for 5 seconds or until consumed. So moving on down to the main bar, we have the Geyser macro here, which is also going to have your Call of the Depths and Dehydrate in it. We have your Healing Cataract macro here, which is also going to have Downpour in it. We have Healing Effusion macro here, which is also going to have Pool of Restoration in, only without Tidal Surge. We have the Tank Orbs of the Stream macro here. This is for being helpful if you tank. If a tank's taking a whole bunch of damage, you can help with the damage soak there. We have the single target healing macro here. We have the Battle Res macro here. We have Healing Flood here, which is very important to make sure that you have up. We have the Healing Spray macro here. And also we have our Downpour ability here. This is mostly just to monitor the cooldown. You don't necessarily have to have this on your bar, but I like to have it here as well just in case I use this in PvP. I can pop it and put it wherever I need it to go versus having it cast on myself. Then we also have the AoE cleanse here. My 0 key is always mapped to my middle click if you've watched my videos before. So if I middle click, it'll pop this cleanse. And the nice thing about Warden's cleanse is it is a double cleanse. Moving on the right, we have a single target cleansing macro here. And of course, we have break free on the equals key. So that's it for the action bar on the buff, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about the K-alerts. So looking at the K-alerts, there's a couple things I like to track. You can track a whole lot more, but this is what I like to track. We have all of our damage over time abilities here, including our oversaturation. We also have the Healing Flood here because all the people that are affected by your Healing Flood get 10% increased healing from you, so you definitely want to make sure that you keep that up. And then of course we track our mastery here. So however many stacks of this we have, for each stack we get a 0.5 second reduction in cast time. So with 3 stacks of this, we get a free or an instant cast Healing Cataract, which is really nice. So that's it for the K-alerts, guys. One thing I do want to talk about really quickly as well is your Dangers of the Deep. Dangers of the Deep is going to regenerate outside of combat. What it does is it increases your healing by 3% per stack, so we have a total of 15% here. But once you start combat, it no longer regenerates, and you have to keep it up by using damaging abilities. Another thing that it does is for every stack you get, your their cast times are reduced by 0.1 seconds. So right now, Healing Cataract is typically a 2-second cast time, but right now it is a 1.5 second cast time. So you definitely want to make sure that you're weaving in your DPS abilities, particularly Geyser, to refresh that when you can. So that's it for the K-Alerts, guys. Let's go ahead and learn how to play Warden. A big part of playing Warden is making sure that you're doing your DPS rotation, not just for the extra healing it provides with Geyser, but also because you need to make sure you maintain your stacks of Dangers of the Deep. So right now I'm going to show you what it would look like if you're on a trivial fight and you're just kind of spamming your DPS abilities, waiting for the AoE damage to come in. And a lot of times your Geyser healing will actually keep people topped up unless you're on a really healing intensive fight, where such as Fenric, where multiple people hit the brutal swell mechanic and you have to do some massive healing. Then of course you have to swap to using cooldowns. But a lot of times Geyser is enough to keep people topped up. So let's go ahead and take a look at that rotation. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make a choice. You can use Tidal Surge with one of your damage over time abilities for increased DPS, or you can save it for one of your healing cooldowns depending on how healing intensive the fight is going to be. If you've healed it multiple times before and it's trivial and you know you can do it without Tidal Surge, you can add it to your top damage over time ability here, which is Call of the Depths. So we're going to do that. We're going to assume that it's a trivial fight, and we're going to add it to the Call of the Depths damage over time ability. So first thing you do, of course, is target your mob. You would then hit Tidal Surge, then hit Shift 1 to cast Call of the Depths, then hit Shift 1 to cast Dehydrate. After that, you would hit Z to cast Banish, and then you would hit Shift Z to cast Oversaturation. Once all four of those are going, you will start spamming your 1 key, which will be Geyser, and you'll notice that your DPS will begin to climb, as well as your healing will start going out as well. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. So we're going to start off by where our boss is already targeted. We're going to hit Tidal Surge. We're going to hit Shift 1 for Call of the Depths, Shift 1 for Dehydrate, Z for Banish, Shift Z for Oversaturation, and then we're going to begin to hit the 1 key. You notice every time we hit the 1 key, our Tidal Surge loses 3 seconds off its cooldown. So by the time our Call of the Depths is about to wear off here, we should have our Tidal Surge back. So now we hit Shift 1 again for Call of the Depths, then we'll hit Shift 1 again for Dehydrate, Z for Banish, Shift Z for Oversaturation, and we'll keep on going. So this time we didn't actually use our Tidal Surge with our damage over time abilities, but you'll see we're still going to climb back up there. I think earlier I was pulling anywhere between 13 and 15k or so this way, so it's definitely not bad. Definitely not bad DPS, and it also provides a lot of extra passive healing there from Geyser. So using this, you can keep people topped up pretty well, and you can swap back and forth to your healing Cataract and stuff when you need to. Like for instance, right now we have the 5 stacks of the face reward. Like right now we could pop Healing Cataract and it would be an instant cast ability. But that's it for the DPS rotation, guys. So Wardens are actually really awesome reactive healers, and the reason for that is because they have a lot of cooldowns in their disposal. So we're going to talk about a few of them, how to use them, and which situations they work best. Starting at the top here for the Q key Wave of Renewal, this one is typically really awesome when everybody's huddled really close together and the waves can hit everybody at once. Because if you have people spread out pretty far, it takes a while for the wave to hit them. So if you have people spread out, like say on Fenric, if you have people spread too far, it takes them a while to hit them. People have a chance they could die. So this one works better when you have people grouped up a little closer, especially if you want to wait for the ring to come back as well. That way you can hit them on the way out and give it a little bit for them to take more damage, and then you'll hit them on the way in. Moving on to the right, Monsoon. This one's really awesome to use for sustained heavy raid damage. You can pop this guy, and then after that you can just use something like Geyser, or even if you wanted to spam Healing Cataract, and typically that would be enough to keep your raid up, just simply because the healing over time component of Monsoon is just insane, casting all 3 of your healing over time abilities there. So typically I will use this preemptively if I know that a phase is coming, or if I know that a cast is coming. I will pop this because it will last a good long time, and it'll keep the healing incoming massively for a while. Over on the right here, Pool of Restoration. This is probably one of your most important cooldowns because it's on a 15-second cooldown. I use this one pretty liberally, and this one right here, I like to use this during heavy burst damage. I will pop this to top the raid off, and then immediately, if the raid is still taking a lot of damage, I will pop Healing Effusion. If not, then I will move over to Healing Cataract or to Geyser. Typically, for me, I don't cast Healing Cataract a whole lot. I typically will cast Geyser unless I have 3 stacks of the face reward. If I do, then I will use Healing Cataract for a filler heal. But a lot of the times I don't like casting Healing Cataract because it's the cast time is too long for me. I like the instant abilities. So moving on down to the main bar here, we have the Geyser macro. Like I said before previously, Geyser is usually enough to keep a lot of people alive because it does do quite a bit of passive healing there. However, if you do need to swap, you can just swap over to your Healing Cataract a few times and go back for low to medium damage. For heavy damage though, you're going to want to use one of your cooldowns, or you're going to want to use your Healing Effusion to get people back up. If all else fails and you start going into a panic mode, you can always jump to your 3 key and start spamming your Healing Effusion, which will also have Pool of Restoration in it. And that will definitely keep people up. However, after you're done with that, you're going to want to make sure that you're managing your mana correctly, and you may have to pop a pot and use your Cascade to make sure, because as you can see, like if I just continually pop this, there goes 10% on mana, there goes another 10%, there goes another 10%. You can see that if you keep spamming this, I just spammed it for literally, what was that, 5 or 10 seconds there, and I'm already at half my mana. So you need to make sure that you're using your Cascade, and also make sure that you're using open water during phases of no damage, or using mana pots cleverly there. So also Downpour, a lot of times when I'll use Downpour is if the raid is taking like kind of like a low or medium damage as well. Just enough to where you'd have to swap to like a Healing Cataract or maybe a few Healing Effusions. At that point you could hit Shift and hit 2 a bunch of times and begin Downpour to help keep people topped up. The advantage to using this way is if people start taking too much damage during the middle of your channel, you can immediately stop and hit your Healing Effusion key to top everybody up. So very, very reactive spec here. You can do a lot with it. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, as always, please let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.